So when we look at what's happening inside Silicon Valley and what's happening inside Google, there's the same type of deliberate lack of perception about what they're doing. Instead, they create a future nirvana that will come from what they're doing. I mean, they genuinely believe, many engineers and people like Ray Kurzweil, is kind of well known, but I know from our sources deep inside those Silicon Valley institutions, they genuinely believe that they're going to produce artificial intelligences that are so powerful relatively soon that people will have their brains digitized, uploaded to these artificial intelligences, and live forever in a simulation, therefore will have eternal life. It's a religion for atheists. They'll have eternal life, and given that you're in a simulation, why not program the simulation to have endless drug and sex orgy parties all around you? It's like the 72 virgins, but it's like the Silicon Valley equivalent. And what can you do with that? Well, what you can do with that is you can get smart engineers to work for less, because they're not just working to increase the profits of Google and Facebook. They're working towards constructing their own immortality and their own infinite pleasure, and not just for themselves, but for their whole community, and they perceive even for all of humanity itself. That's the vision that they have that makes them work harder. And the dystopian consequences of their work is not what is most present in their mind. They are aware of the talk, but they engage in rhetorical strawmans. So they take the talk about, okay, well, maybe producing artificial intelligence that is so sophisticated that human beings can't understand what it's doing is a dangerous thing. And they reframe it into some ridiculous straw man. One day, computer becomes conscious, it decides it's a homicidal maniac and goes around killing everyone. Or we can just put a little switch on it that, secondary computer program that looks to see where it's becoming homicidal turns it off. Of course you could, but that's not how it will happen in practice. In practice, these artificial intelligences become into being the same way that children become into being, or rather adults become into being, through the process of being children, learning about the world. They are learning machines. The children learn 10 words a day on average, and many other things. So they have intense capacity, but they're not pre-distilled with everything in their brain. They harvest from the world. Now, us as human beings have been extremely foolish. Surveillance capitalism as a model has meant that we've all been in the process of putting our lives onto the internet or Facebook. We're giving our lives over to these Silicon Valley companies. So Silicon Valley data stores now have a very, very rich description of reality as experienced by human beings, and some bits of data that's not experienced by human beings, like stock market indexes and so on. And that is what these artificial intelligences are trained on. If you look at something like Google Translate, that's amazing. I mean, it's pretty hard to learn, 8 languages, let alone 65 languages. That's really remarkable. The field of artificial intelligence used to be called AIMT, Artificial Intelligence Machine Translation. This machine translation was basically to tap into funding streams from the National Security Agency, because they had to translate all their intercepts. But the machine translation part is basically done. How did that happen? Was it tens of thousands of programmers making lots of grammar rules from all sorts of different languages? No. The breakthrough is it's looking at translations of UN speeches and EU regulations. And there's language pairs, many language pairs of the same document. And with that, examples, those Rosetta Stones, millions of Rosetta Stones, you're able to construct a computer which can learn the principles of language and therefore translate. And what we have done is given Rosetta Stones the keys to how human beings think and our how we manage our political structures and our social structures and our language structures, visual and word examples in the trillions. So that's all there. The full description of humanity is all there in all its beauty, horror, and detail. It's all there to be gleaned from and learned from and extracted like an open-cut mine. And you just need to construct, various types of artificial intelligence are being constructed that then simply mine this out, the collective digitized experience of humanity. And so
but you can't get
so each iteration that you have, you produce a 1% better artificial intelligence. It's able to then extract more from this collective output of humanity. It's able to go through the same information and extract more. So if you look at the improvements in the algorithms and computational speed, it's running about 400, 500% a year. The computational speed about 200% a year, and the algorithms, another 200-300% a year. So that's a geometric increase. It's a graph that looks like this. Even if we're not putting in more data to the internet, and we are, just that alone allows you to extract more intelligence, understanding, capital from the collective digitized output of humanity. So it's a really quite severe situation, and it's not properly seen by the people who have the best capacity to see it, i.e. the people who are working on it themselves. They don't perceive it because there's a cultural and industrial bias to not perceiving it, and instead to supplant what would normally be perception of what you're working on with this ridiculous quasi-religious model that it's all going to lead to nirvana.